Hello and welcome to BERLINdians Founders Spotlight Series. Today we have with us Aishwarya Patki. She's the founder of Robotikos, a startup based in Berlin. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Soumya.
So, Ash, tell us about Robotikos.
Absolutely. So, first of all, I'm thinking of changing the name because I think the name is a little misleading. People assume we do something with the machines or maybe like a software for the machines. That's not what we do. Roboticos is about smart capex allocation.
Mhm.
So, what happens at large companies right now is they have a centralized budget for automation across their facilities. Let's say 20 million in a year. Now, imagine you have 50 factories in 20 different countries with different currencies, different cost of labor, different cost of raw materials. And then there's a complex supply chain that goes through your factories where product is coming out of one factory, getting absorbed into the next one to go on to become the final product. And then when you automate any of these processes, your output is going to change, your cost structure is going to change. So, how in such a complex, intermingled, interlinked system, how do you decide how you allocate those 20 million?
Yeah.
Because 20 million for 50 factories is not a lot actually.
Mhm.
I come from finance, and for me, the only thing that matters is for every €1 spent, how much euros am I getting back? And Roboticos exists to make sure that for every €1 they put into automation, they get the maximum benefit. So what Roboticos technically does is a bit like treasure hunt. It looks through your production systems at every individual process that can be automated and simulates what happens not just to the process, but your whole business if this process is improved through automation.
Sure.
And then once we know that, we try to find combinations of different processes, which just makes so much sense together because for those 20 million, you're going to get the maximum benefit out of it. Because all manufacturing companies are for profit.
Mhm.
Their one key metric is making profits at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So everything they do needs to work towards making sure those profits increase for their shareholders, for their employees, for their customers.
Okay.
Right. So basically that's what we do. It's a data analytics tool, and we combine a lot of theories in manufacturing like lean, theory of constraints, value stream mapping, and all of these to find that one optimal path of automation through your factory that just fits within your budget and gives you the maximum benefit.
Interesting. A little bit of background about how did you come to Berlin? Tell us about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually moved to Germany not because it was something I intentionally did. I ended up getting married to somebody who's German. So
Oh, right.
we actually were in Hamburg in the beginning. And then since I was working in VC and startups and everything, obviously Berlin was the better place to be. Uh, the reason we even went to Hamburg was because I was working with a VC fund in Hamburg, one of the best growth series funds, DTCP.
Okay.
I was a strategic fund, and that was one of the most interesting experiences I had because, as you know from my LinkedIn profile, and probably your viewers or the people who are listening to us will also realize I come from a financial background, right? I have a master's in finance, I'm a chartered accountant. I worked in the finance function of Wipro Technologies as a senior finance executive. And then when I was working with DTCP, we were looking at technologies which were of interest to Deutsche Telekom. And this was the time when 5G was getting released everywhere. The infrastructure was built, 5G was becoming a thing. This was 2020, which means we were looking at a lot of network technologies, cybersecurity, applications for faster bandwidth, very deep tech. And for me, that was extremely interesting because I was now bridging two worlds, finance and deep tech. I was good at finance. Deep tech, I had no idea. And then I had some really good mentors at DTCP, a special shout out to Florent, who basically made me so much more comfortable in analyzing deep technology from a financial lens. And I enjoyed it so much. Of course, then my time at DTCP came to an end, and that's when I decided I wanted to move to Berlin. So yeah, that's how I ended up in Berlin.
Wonderful. Tell me how your background in venture capital and understanding being a finance woman in finance,
Mhm.
helped you in your entrepreneurial journey. Do you think you had a edge over over, let's say, others as a first-time founder?
Um, It's a little unfair to say I have an edge over others because I think every founder has something very specific they bring to the table, and every founder has other things they're not good at, So it's that's why a team of 3 to 4 founders usually is a very good team, especially if everybody brings complementary skills. What it did help me to do was a few things. First of all, I know how to talk to VCs because I was a VC. I know how to talk to them. But more importantly than anything else, I saw the journey that VC back founders go through. And that actually drove me to make sure that I don't become a VC startup until I'm ready to.
Hmm.
So till now, I have never actually pursued VCs. I have never spoken to VCs. I usually tend to not do calls with VCs even if they do reach out
Mhm.
because I know I'm not ready for VC capital and I don't know if I'll ever be ready for VC money. So I think more than the fact, of course, one thing that it did teach me is the rigor, the financial rigor of building a startup. Because at the end of the day, we were putting startups into numbers and
Hmm.
evaluating these startups in numbers. So in numbers, I know what a good startup looks like, and then I can build my plans to reach these numbers, which always helps because it's more objective than some subjective targets. On the other hand, it also taught me how vigorous or rigorous this analysis is and how specific these metrics are that startups need to fulfill to become VC cases.
Yeah.
And I knew that I need my own time and my own path to reach those metrics. And I don't want the pressure of VC money to push me to achieve these targets as fast as possible. So it was a double-edged sword, I would say.
Hmm.
It helped me understand what my startup needs to do. It also helped me understand that there's a certain point where VC money makes sense, and until I reach it, I'm not gonna go for it.
Yeah, yeah. Also, now that you have been building for a while, when you see early stage startups, what are the typical traps that you see founders falling into? And any piece of cautionary advice to anyone who's starting to build?
I mean, the most fundamental one is do not go for VC money. I see a lot of founders who build a pitch deck and start trying to talk to VCs.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense. VCs wouldn't be investing in you unless you've already sold 3 successful startups before or something. Build your product,
Mhm.
build your product market fit, build your customer base, show that it's a repeatable business model, that there's scale built into it. Figure out exactly who you're talking to, understand your customers. But the most important advice is when you're building a startup, your God is not VCs or your product or your engineers or anybody else. Your God is your customer.
Yeah.
Listen to your customer. Make sure this customers that you have customers to listen to in the first place. Listen to them. If your customers are happy with you, then everything else is super easy.
Mhm.
But pursue customers, pursue the product market fit, and make sure you have everything in place before you talk to VCs. Should never be the first thing you think about when you're building a startup.
Yeah, that's a wonderful piece of advice, especially coming from somebody who's been on the other side as well. Also,
Probably that's why.
also, Ash, when people start building, what are the key points that they should keep in mind apart from, of course, the product market fit, the idea being there? Because we also see a lot of founders tend to struggle. How does one decipher whether this is just a phase which will pass, or whether they have to go back to a drawing board and relook at what they are building?
I think when you want to pivot, you need to really think about what the pivot is going to be. So when you want to go back to the drawing board, you should be going back with the intent of finding your next route to
Mhm.
success, not just trying to figure out what next. I don't know how to let me try again. So if you're trying, let's say, to sell to customer profile A right now,
Yeah.
how do you know it's not working?
Mhm.
Is it a gut feeling? Because gut feelings are not really trustable. So when you're planning a specific strategy, always put it in numbers. Number of customers or potential customers of profile A that you want to reach. How many of them should convert to different stages of your pipeline? What is your target revenue? What do you want to sell? Is it a pilot? Is it a POC? Is it a full-fledged product? Pricing models? How do you define success or non-success of a particular strategy? And then make sure you stick to the numbers. And if then you realize that the numbers you predicted are not even close to being met, that's when you decide that you want to pivot and find a different strategy. And then again, go back to making sure that you can translate your strategy into numbers that you achieve.
Hmm.
Because otherwise, it's almost like a fantasy of, oh yeah, I'm gonna go and talk to people and I'm gonna get customers. How many people? How do they convert? What is your conversion rate? What are you expecting? How will you reach these people? What are your channels? Make
Yeah.
sure you have everything quantified so that you can always judge the success of each strategy,
Mhm.
so that it's never a gut feeling. You've actually made an informed decision. It could still be wrong, it could still be the wrong decision,
Hmm.
but at least you made it based on data and not gut feelings, or worse, external advice.
Yeah, understood. Personally, what has been your key struggles while building, um, anything that you would want to share with us, and anything that you kind of learned from that experience?
I mean, to be very open and honest, the fact that I'm a foreigner really worked against me, because the German business culture is such that you tend to have decades of relationship with your suppliers. It's not, Germany is not a place where you can walk into a room and people would be wowed. You
Mm-hmm.
walk into a room, people will listen to you, then they will go back and ask 20 people if they've heard of you, and if they haven't, you're not gonna hear from this person ever again. So the biggest drawback is the fact that I don't have parents or family or friends who are rich or whose parents would give me introductions,
Yeah, a
because
community,
then they are
a huge network.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I think the network itself. So yes, we Indians tend to help each other, but we all are in the same boat.
Mm.
None of us have that community here, right?
Mm.
A lot of the founders I met, a lot who've made it to, let's say, series A or C stage or something, got their first customers through their family connections,
Yeah.
right? Especially when it's B2B, of course, not B2C, but B2C also, it's usually the friends and family who's signing up
Yeah.
to use your product first. So, what do you do when you don't have that?
Mm.
It's so much harder to convince somebody who's not your parent to give you a warm introduction to somebody else, right? I
Absolutely.
think that's one of the biggest obstacles.
Mm-hmm. The network, you're saying. Um,
Yes.
Yeah, but on a brighter note, as years go by, we see a lot more Indian representation in Berlin startup ecosystem. We see more and more founders joining in, and communities are building. So, is there any advantage to build in Germany? Do you think the government provides any incentives? The atmosphere, is there a atmosphere of cooperation from even from the governments, and from the processes are laid out very specifically? Are there enough grants for people to kind of lean on to, if they are building something meaningful?
Absolutely. So I think the biggest benefit of building not just in Germany but the EU as a whole is EU tends to give a lot of money to startups which work towards EU's priorities. So sustainability,
Yeah.
um, I don't know what it's called, the sustainable goals, sustainable SDGs, right?
Yeah.
A lot of money goes towards that. We ourselves got around 45,000 euros in grant from the Berlin government to build a startup.
Mhm.
There's a lot of grants, there's a lot of programs to help you. Um, of course, there are a few things that work against you, like the language barrier does work against you. It's a tough language, German. It also can maybe sometimes work against you that you clearly stand out,
Mhm.
as a foreigner. But I wouldn't say that I would say it's maybe 1 out of 10 times where you get judged for being a foreigner, not as often. Um, 9 out of 10 times, I don't think it's relevant to the person you're talking to, because this is a very professional way of handling things in Germany, but there can be, of course, a little bit of racism sometimes. But apart from that, I think the environment, especially in Berlin, has developed to be a startup ecosystem, and that really helps. There are so many events
Yeah.
for every interest, and you can just go to an event every evening, meet interesting people, and eat free food and drink free beer. So that really helps. Being in Berlin definitely helps. There's a lot of government support. And I would say there's quite a lot of very good VCs also in Berlin, headquartered in Berlin. But again, that is something that comes when you have like €1 million in revenue every year. So
Yeah.
that's for later. But it does help. It also attracts other talent, right?
Yeah.
Startups attract talent, VCs attract talent. So now you have access to more talent.
Yeah.
Definitely good. Just one thing I want to add on the point before when we were talking about the Indian community.
Hmm.
I would have a word of advice for Indians. If there's an Indian who comes to you, an Indian entrepreneur, help,
Hmm.
give introductions, get or try to open doors for them because there's this instinct in Indians to not help Indians.
We are so competitive.
It's more like we look down. It's like this ghost of colonization where
Hmm.
we look down upon ourselves, you know.
Yeah.
So imagine, like, try to imagine that at some point in your career, you might be in a place where you need somebody to open doors for you.
Yeah.
And at that point, if you've built a community of Indians who's opening doors for each other, now you know where to go. But
Hmm.
if you never open doors for somebody else, karma always comes back. Nobody will open doors for you. So help Indians. Always try to help Indians. Remember, at the end of the day, if we can stick together, we can look at the US. The Indian community is huge over there, and there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
They all grew together. So
Yeah, that's a wonderful piece of advice, Ash. Also, you speak about Berlin being a hub for good talent as well. So that's another critical point in startup journey is building the right team and also finding the right co-founder. Um,
Mhm.
what has been your experience like? Any tips? How can you find the right co-founder and the right team? Because that is very critical to success of one startup.
I would say the real single qualification for the right co-founder is somebody who believes in the vision as much as you,
Mm,
because nothing else really matters. You could be great friends, like
yeah.
you could have known each other since you were born, but if at some point one of the co-founders loses faith in what you're trying to build, that relationship is going to crash and you're going to lose a really good friend at the same time.
Mm,
I think there are challenges, right? Being entrepreneurs together is not easy, especially when there are two opinions in a room. Most of the times these opinions are opposing, and when there's no third tiebreaker, you're gonna fight, you're gonna argue a lot.
yeah.
As long as you both stay committed to what you're building, it's gonna work. How do you find these people? I genuinely don't know. It's very difficult. I think I couldn't have a rule book. I luckily found someone where I just get along very well with him.
Mhm.
I'm not gonna say we're very nice to each other. We can be horrible to each other when we need to. But the reason then we still come back and have the next call again is because we believe that there's real potential in what we're building
Yeah.
and that it will succeed. And as long as that faith, that belief stays there, you can get over your disagreements and differences in your personality.
Yeah, yeah, that's a wonderful piece of advice. So, friends ideally shouldn't be co-founders, I guess.
It's like this. Would you go into business with your husband or wife?
Yeah,
It's
very
not a
tricky.
very smart idea, yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
also, about like I always use this analogy about finding co-founders. It's like using Tinder for dating.
Hmm.
Gonna swipe right so many times, and you never know. The most random, the most unlikely person might be end up being your boyfriend for ages or your
Yeah.
girlfriend or your husband or wife, whatever. Because it's not a CV, it's not something you can read off of a profile that you can say this is the right person for me. It's a mindset, and that mindset also takes years to develop and can get, destroyed within a day or two when something goes wrong. You never know. It's a risk. You always take a risk with a partner. Your
Hmm.
co-founder is almost probably as much in your life as your husband or wife or boyfriend or girlfriend. And it's just a relationship. You have to keep building it, and it can go kaput anytime.
I also want to get a sense from you about women in tech and women representation in startup ecosystem in Berlin. How do you feel about that?
I do see more women building, but they are pigeonholed right now.
Mm,
You typically see women building light tech, like
mm,
female-focused solutions, healthcare for women,
mm.
or I don't know what, like B2C, for example,
Yeah.
tends to attract women more than B2B.
Mhm.
I think it's also So the reason I sometimes get remembered by people I've met is because there's not a lot of women who go into manufacturing or automation or machine related startups.
Yeah.
So I think this representation, it's skewed towards certain industries which have a lot of things anyways going on, and then the problem is there's so much competition. There's
Hmm.
maybe 20 other people building the same startup you are, and then you have to have certain benefits and execution that you may or may not have because you're an immigrant founder. So there's representation in building. As for in tech, at the junior levels, definitely there's a lot of women, even women of color. Like look at Indian women who are techies. They all have fantastically well paid jobs and everything.
Yeah.
But at the higher level leadership, very rare.
Mhm.
And it reflects in the culture, right? There are some really well established startups who are not startups anymore, who've had a lot of complaints about toxic culture because everybody at the top is a man in his 30s.
Hmm.
That's a very specific way of working, which is not inclusive enough for everybody to work in that company. And then people start having problems with the culture because people in different age groups, people of different genders may have different priorities in life and may not want to work 20 hours a day, 7 days a week, like the founders do.
Yeah.
So at the top, I think there's still a gap. But how do you get to the top? You only get to the top when you build. So it's a chicken and egg situation, right? Building is already difficult. You're already pigeonholed into industries. Women tend to have natural preference for these industries as well. Industries or yeah, you know what I mean, areas.
Categories, basically.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then the competition in these and the fact that these are more B2C kind of startups, which are anyways very difficult to succeed. Women can rarely rise up to the top, and then companies which do get big tend to be mostly men at the top who do not understand the other side of the coin because they're still very young. You know, at 30, you're still kind of young. You've not seen the
Yeah.
world that much. They've been building a company for 10 years together and they know the one way of working which worked for them till now, and then the culture kind of gets toxic. So I do think there's more scope, but I don't blame the ecosystem for it because yes, you can always artificially add women into workforces.
Mhm.
But then there's so many things that need to organically change for women to succeed in these workforces.
Yeah.
You can't bring about all these changes artificially. It has to be built up. You can't create another Berlin startup ecosystem in another city because it was organic. It's
Hmm.
the same with getting more women into the workforce. It has to be organic. You have to build the support structure, not just artificially drag women into roles that they are not ready for, and the roles are also not ready for them because then you're just setting them up for failure. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. What you have to say about founders taking prioritizing their health and mental health when they're trying to build because every other KPI is always on top of mind, but one's personal health and mental well-being is critical too. So, how do you maintain your work-life balance, your mental sanity, and any tips that you want to share with budding founders?
I mean, the biggest way to be able to have the luxury of prioritizing your mental health as a founder is
Mhm.
not taking VC money
Hmm.
because that's the most pressure for founders. Because it's like this, right? Let's say I raise pre-seed tomorrow
Yeah.
and I have a revenue of 200K. Now there's an expectation, there's a market expectation that within the next year I would have raised seed
Hmm.
because that's what my pre-seed investors need me to do. That's how they succeed. And from their point of view, that's fine because that's their job. They need me to raise seed within a year so that I'm still perceived as a startup which has potential.
Yeah.
But for seed, I need €1 million in revenue. I just achieved 200K. I need to now 5x my revenue
Hmm.
within a year, which means the pressure that I have within that year, unless I'm increasing my revenue every 2 months by 200K, doubling it every 2 months basically, I'm not going to reach that. And then, even if my mental health is crashing, I do not have the luxury to take a step back.
Hmm.
Whereas if I did not have that VC money, I could have gone from 200K to 500K in a year and been extremely happy with it. Because that is real scale. It's just not VC scale.
Mhm.
You know, it's extremely successful to double your revenue in a year. How many companies do that? Not many. Companies are now basically downsizing because they're losing revenue. So that is one key thing. But also, I think at the end of the day, it's very difficult to say when you prioritize what as a global rule. Everybody has a very different trajectory. For example, I can honestly say that there are times where suddenly, just randomly out of nowhere for a week, I have no energy left to even like live life anymore.
Mm.
All I can manage is getting out of bed and then going and lying down on the couch because I cannot do anything.
Mm.
I don't know why that happens. It's obviously a little more common in the winter
Mm.
in
Yeah.
Berlin because yes, that does affect me a lot.
Yeah.
But then I just let that happen and I tell my co-founder, hey, I can't get myself to do anything. And then he says, all good. Tell me what was on your table. I'll see what I can do about it. Take a week, take 10 days, whatever you need. When you come back, I can hand off things to you again. And the offer goes both ways. It's
Mm.
okay, we're humans, we're not machines. Even machines need maintenance, even machines have downtime. So yeah, there are still some people who want to power through, and all more power to them if they want to power through, and if they can manage it and if they can sustain it, all good. I know that I can't. So, for example, periods, I have horrible period cramps the first 2 days.
Mm.
And then I'm absolutely comfortable just lying down on the couch with my laptop and working on my couch. I don't get dressed. I'm not putting on fancy clothes.
Yeah.
I'm in my pajamas because I have cramps and I'm uncomfortable, and that's fine. So, personally, for me, I think I need to coexist with my startup.
Mm.
I cannot keep changing my life and putting my priorities at the back for my startup because the startup cannot do that for me either, right?
Yeah.
Again, it's a different relationship. So
Yeah.
I think everybody should have their own model as long as they know it works for them and for the startup.
Yeah. 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 Um, Also, Ash, one last question. If
Mhm.
anybody is watching this podcast, if there is one thing that you want them to take from this conversation, what would that be?
Help Indians. I'm not saying don't help anybody else, but remember there's a community and there's something specific about Indians because we look different from the rest of the world, right? Um, for example, if there's Germans and French and Americans in the same room, unless they speak, they look like a homogeneous thing. And I'm not being racist about it. I'm just saying that communities get formed based on what is common between you. And Indians have one thing very in common. We stand out. We just even if we have integrated ourselves into the society completely, we look different.
Mhm.
Which means that we whatever is the situation in the country, you look at the US, look at I don't know, the UK.
Hmm.
Every country has a different attitude towards Indian immigrants. In many countries, we regarded highly respect with a lot of respect. In the US, is a bit of a movement against us right now, but that's because we stand out as a group,
Hmm.
and then the group is as strong as each of its members. So as long as we come together, whether we respected or we basically like a public enemy right now or whatever it is, we have to stick together. Of course, still integrate, help others also, but remember that at the end of the day, we will be singled out for good reasons and bad, and then you're just as strong as your community is. So always help Indians, make sure that we represent India in a very good light over here. And to do that, you have to make sure all Indians come up together,
Mhm.
not just a few Indians at the top and the others at the bottom struggling.
Yeah, that's a wonderful piece of advice. United always we go far when we are united. So that's absolutely.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for giving us your time, Ash, and it was always a pleasure talking to you. Very candid,
Thank you
very
so much.
honest. Thank you so
Thank you so much. It was so nice being here. Really nice questions, thoughtful. And I hope I managed to do justice to the really thoughtful questions you put together.
You did. You did. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Soumya.
Thank you.